Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials. Today, my co-host is Seth Heckerman. How are you today, Seth?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. Kind of an interesting story, though. My family bought a new dog. I don't think I told you that yet.
You hadn't, no.
Yeah, we bought a new dog, and we bought it from a blacksmith. There are not many blacksmiths around anymore, but there is one around us, and he had a dog, and he said, I just can't take care of it anymore, and so we bought an older dog from a blacksmith. It's been great. The only problem is, as soon as we got him home, he made a bolt for the door. Okay. I will share one other thing. I've been working on an invention recently. So my invention is going to be a thought-activated air freshener.
Interesting.
Really, it makes sense when you think about it. Okay.
Those weren't your best, but those weren't your worst. I'd give those a 7 out of 10 on the dad joke scale. So that was pretty solid.
Part.
Yeah.
Not my best, not my worst. That's the story of my life. Okay, let's drive forward. And we got an exciting question we are digging into today. We are digging into how sales organizations can use today's latest speech analytics technology, as well as machine learning and AI, to dramatically increase the morale and performance of their sales teams, as well as the overall success of their organizations. Today's guest is Sebastian Jimenez, founder of Rillavoice, one of the fastest growing startups in the world right now. Seth and I both met Sebastian in person at the 2023 Metal Roofing Summit, and we were both immediately taken by his enthusiasm and the way that Rillavoice technology is really disrupting our industry, and we think it's going to lead to great things in the future as well. So, Sebastian, welcome to Construction Disruption. We're pleased. I know you got a very busy schedule. We're pleased you're taking some time to visit with us today and looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Todd. Thank you for having me on, Seth. Super excited to be here.
Well, good. Well, let's go forward with a couple questions. So, the way I look at it, Rillavoice and you are really kind of taking the home improvement and in-home sales industry by storm right now. Mm-hmm. You were in a high school program at Yale University. You graduated in quantitative economics from New York University. So before we dig into what Rillavoice is all about, tell us a little bit, where in the world did you come from? What caused you to start this company?
So, great question. I am from the Dominican Republic, right? So the short answer to the question is I have a bunch of Pirate to the Caribbean genes inside of me. So I think that there's like some inner DNA, looking for booty and gold all over the world. And so, yeah, I grew up, I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic. I come from a long line of pineapple farmers. And I came to America for college. I actually finished my high school here, but then I came here for college. I went to NYU, like you said. And when you go to NYU, there's an existential question that's haunting you every day, which is should you go to class or should you go to Urban Outfitters and just walk around in New York City? I chose a third option, which was to skip all my classes to go and do stand-up comedy in very crappy bars in Lower East Side. With not the best of people, let me tell you that. Imagine the kind of degenerates that go to a stand-up comedy show on a Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. In the afternoon. People that were laid off and just broken homes and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's what I was doing in college, just doing stand-up comedy, and that's the reason I got into tech, right? And to me, it makes all the sense in the world. But people are like, stand-up comedy technology, what the hell are you talking about? And the reason it makes sense to me, so I went to business school technically, but I didn't learn anything about what I know about business in business school. I learned it from stand-up comedy, right? Partly because I didn't go to class. But the main thing I learned in stand-up comedy is the only art form where you have to literally go out there in front of people to practice. Just even to practice, you have to practice in front of an audience. It's not like what you can paint in your room and and write in your room and do any other kind of art form in your room. And stand up, you can, even if you're a psychopath, like talking to yourself in the mirror, like it's like, how's it going, guys? And your like roommate's calling the police, being like, this guy's insane. You can't do it even if you're like insane, because you need the crowd to laugh or not to laugh to know if the joke is going in the right direction. And so you get this, you learn this concept, which is that true learning doesn't happen in your head. It happens out there in the world, and it's waiting to be discovered and found out. And that's the main thing I learned from stand-up, that you have to learn through trial and error and like really launching fast. And I had an internship with this Forbes author where we interviewed the founders of Coursera, Etsy, Zola, people like in New York City that were really good tech founders, and how they described how they built their companies and their products. To me, their creative process was very similar to what I was doing in stand-up. You have an idea, even if it's in the right general direction, it's going to be wrong on so many different, like 1,000 little ways, right? That you can't even predict until you actually put it in front of people and you get that real life feedback from the real world, and that's when you actually start the building process of actually crafting something amazing and something great. And so that's how I got into technology. I said, that's very similar to what I'm doing in stand-up. I want to scratch that itch of like building something amazing, getting feedback from people. And I started my first tech company out of college. It was a field marketing management software that companies like Molson Coors, Get Around, Heineken, Red Bull, they would use for their field marketing events, field marketing for the home improvement industry. You guys, you do the home shows, right? And you do the Costco, the booths at the Costco, right? So consumer brands do this as well, but not necessarily to get leads, but to increase brand awareness for their products, right? And so, imagine like the Red Bull kids that put the uniforms, they go up to college campus, they give you Red Bull, you get you excited, and you drink the Red Bull, and you're like, oh, this is great, Red Bull, yeah. And they would use our software to manage all of that. And just fast forward, I basically realized that all these consumer brands and many companies in the world, from field marketing, they were having like millions and millions of interactions face-to-face with consumers every single month, right? And I realized that the interactions that they were having, real life interactions with real consumers, was more data than they were capturing from social media, right? So like a brand like Heineken, they had like 4 million face-to-face interactions between their consumers and their field marketing brand ambassadors every single month. And they had like 500,000 points of engagement from all their social media combined in a month in the United States. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everything, every interaction, every click, every like, every comment, every mention of their brand was 10 times less data than what they were getting from like real life interactions, face-to-face and field marketing. And I said, what if we could take these 4 million interactions, process them, analyze them, give Heineken a dashboard about their consumer sentiment, their product sentiment, everything about what their consumers think or not think about their brand, similar to what they have in social media, is just like 10 times more data with real people. And then I started thinking, that's only Heineken. What about Molson? What about Pepsi Cola? What about if you get out of field marketing into field sales? How many conversations in retail? And I figured out that there was 10 billion face-to-face conversations in a commercial capacity between consumers and sales and service and marketing people every single month. And I said, what if we could take all those conversations and make the offline world, the commercial world, as searchable and easy to analyze and understand as Google did for the web? And that was the origin of Rilla, right? To take face-to-face conversations, process them, analyze them, and make them valuable for businesses, for their sales, their marketing, for everything. And that was then. And Rilla, what it is now is, we're the leading speech analytics software for the home improvement industry, where people talk to homeowners in the home, record their conversations. We transcribe, analyze them, and give them feedback with AI to help them improve their sales. But the origin was, how do we make the offline world as searchable as Google did for the web? Yeah.
Very cool. Incredible idea, and incredible how you've seen it through to fruition. So,
yeah.
So Sebastian, now I'm embarrassed. I start with these dad jokes, and I find out that you did professional stand-up and pineapple farmers. Do you like pineapples? I have to ask you.
Oh yes, sir. My birthday was it was my birthday recently. In my office, they got me like a mango pineapple coconut cake, and I was like, "This is, I think somebody should get canceled for this, but I like the cake, but that's okay." I don't know if I should start a hashtag against this, but it's okay. It's like the cake was good.
Mango pineapple, man. Next time I'm in the city, I need to find that.
Yeah.
So I want to tease this out a little bit before we do sort of the big reveal over exactly what your technology brings to our industry. But when you started looking at the home improvement industry, did you see sort of a big void out there that was kind of hindering growth and success of individual salespeople and organizations? And, if so, I mean, what was that you saw out there?
So one of the things we saw, not only with home improvement, but kind of any industry that has an outside sales component, what the big problem that we saw is that in order to train and manage and kind of ramp up your salespeople, there's only one way to do it traditionally, which is having a sales manager go out and do ride-alongs for ongoing coaching and training. So the typical thing is, my sales rep's not doing well and they're kind of slumping, and then I try to figure out why. If I want to figure out why, that I need to go on a ride along, just take notes, see the sales rep selling, and I have to go back and kind of give them feedback. And so that's a problem, and that's really time consuming. If you take the average sales manager, they're going to be spending about 40 hours a month doing ride alongs, right? Only to see about 2% of the totality of the conversations that their teams are having. So you take the typical sales manager, they manage like 8 salespeople, right? The 8 salespeople are doing like 2 appointments a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks out of a month. That's like 400 appointments, if I'm not mistaken. And so the sales manager in the 40 hours that they're doing every single month of ride-alongs, they're able to see 8 out of the 400 meetings that their reps are having, right? So it's really time consuming, and it's not yielding a lot of, visibility and return, which is why it's really, really difficult to train and ramp up salespeople, which is the reason why we have the 80-20 rule, which is like you have really good top performers that are bringing in the bulk of the revenue and they're like at a level on their own. And then everybody else who's not as naturally talented, they're kind of struggling, and you get a lot of churn. You get a lot of people are trying to get sales and they don't work out. A lot of it is because of the lack of coaching, because we're only getting 2% visibility as to what's going on in the field. And the way that we explain this to people, it's like, imagine if you had a sports team that, like take the Chicago Bulls with Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan. Imagine Phil Jackson was able to coach the players in the dressing room and track results and see if they're winning and losing games. So he was not allowed to be on the field to see his players playing, right? And he wasn't allowed to watch the game film and like watch the games on TV. Like, he can't actually see what his players are doing on the field. That's the problem that we have today in anybody who's doing outside sales. For home improvement in particular, what we realize is that this is not just a problem, but it's one of the most fundamental problems, especially now as leads are getting more expensive. It's getting harder to close deals because, we're coming off of this COVID high where, it was like a gold rush for the suburbs, right? Everybody's just like raking in the orders, and now, interest rates are coming up and people are, it's harder to convince them to depart with their money. And so sales coaching and training has really become a bottleneck right now, because it was easy for the last 2-3 years to kind of get sales where you could get by with kind of average sales reps. Now you need your sales reps to be really, really good. And so for home improvement, we saw that at this particular moment in time, it wasn't just a problem of coaching, it was like one of the most important problems that they had. Because you can't do anything about the leads getting more expensive, but you sure can make sure that your reps can either close more deals or increase their average tickets, right? And those are the only 2 levers as a home improvement company that you can pull right now to increase your profitability and your growth. So, yeah.
Awesome. So let's do the big reveal. Tell us what Rillavoice does. I haven't wanted to spoil it for our listeners, but let's do it. Tell us what you do.
Let's do it. So Rilla is the leading speech analytics software in the home improvement industry. So you take a sales rep that sells metal roofs, right? They go into someone's home and they do their presentation. They talk, they do build some rapport with the customer. They do their company story. They handle objections. They talk about pricing and financing. They're going to be recording those conversations with the Rillavoice mobile app from their phones or tablets. And then we're going to be using AI to automatically transcribe, analyze, and give them feedback to help them improve their sales. And to help their sales managers do what we call virtual ride-alongs that are 100 times faster, better, and cheaper than the traditional physical ride-alongs that they did before. So that's basically what Rilla is.
That's fantastic. So I assume they don't have an earpiece that's telling them real time, "Hey, dummy, don't say that."
No.
What does this really look like as far as how they utilize it and how their sales manager interacts with them?
Yeah, great question. So it's not an earpiece. It's not annoying the salesperson in real time yet. So what happens is they do their conversation, they stop the recording after the fact. Then the tool, they can go back and review their conversation. And it's not just a conversation. We've actually seen that our salespeople don't call it a conversation or a recording. They call it a Rilla. They're like, "Let me see my Rilla." It's weird.
Wow.
We didn't intend for that to happen. They say Rilla. So, people say like if your company can become a verb, that's amazing. That's like a legendary company like Uber, Google, right? But, at least we became a noun. So, so still waiting for the verb. But so they call it a Rilla. And what a Rilla is a conversation, but that gives you an analysis of what happened in that conversation and actual feedback about what you did right and what you could have done better. And the way it gives you these feedback, right? Rilla analyzes how you talk, right? How you talk is, how much do you talk versus the customer, your talk ratio? How much do you interact with the customer? How much back and forth there is? How many open-ended questions are you asking? What's your tone of voice? What's your talk speed? It analyzes how you talk, and then it compares the way you talk to the top performers in your team, right? So imagine you have a top performer who's closing $3-5 million in revenue and you're closing less than one. You want to understand what it is that person's doing differently than you are, right? So that you can improve. So it analyzes how you talk, compares you to the top performers, and it does the same thing for what you say literally. So Rilla, we basically use GPT-4, which is the algorithm that's behind GPT chat, to basically use natural language processing to understand what's being talked about in that conversation. After we get the transcription, we understand literally what is being talked about. So Rilla will basically give you feedback like, hey, we noticed that you're talking about pricing for like 25 minutes on average in a conversation when the top performers are only talking about pricing for 15 minutes. So you should lower the amount of time that you spend talking about pricing. Here's an example of how the top performer does it. And Rilla will actually feed you automated content so that you can review game film from the top performers in your team. So it's like a really good tool for you as a sales rep to coach yourself in your own time and then go back with your sales manager to review the game film and see what you could have done better.
So what's the reaction been? I mean, you serve a lot of audiences. You've got business owners, you got sales managers, you got sales, you even have the end consumer. What's been the reaction from those different audiences as they start to utilize Rillavoice and listen to pay attention to their Rillas?
Yeah. So the owners absolutely love it. I mean, we as soon as they hear about it, they are like, "Oh my God, this is the next best thing." We recently had one of our good customers, large home remodeling company. He's an amazing human being. He's been in the industry for decades, and he said something along the lines of, for 40 years we've been in this business and we've changed everything. We've changed the products that we sell. We've changed our technology for the call center. We changed our sales process, our marketing process. We've changed how we've had to get leads because of Google and all these things, right, and SEO. The only thing that hasn't changed in the last 40 years is the way we coach and train our salespeople. That's the only thing that hasn't changed. And so owners see this as like an opportunity to change the, kind of like the last bastion of manual processes that they have in their businesses, which is how we coach our sales reps with the ride along. So they get it immediately. They get the vision. Sales managers absolutely adore it. They're like, we have, I tell the story of this guy, Chad, from the Stormguard Roofing Company. They sell roofing products, all over the country. And I asked Chad, how did it go your first week of using Rilla? And he said, man, listen, in my 10 years of sales, I've never saved so much time. And I said, why? And he said, last week it took me, I went out with one rep and did, 2 ride-alongs with them. Today with Rilla, I was able to manage all my 5 reps. And I said, oh my God, it's a 5 times improvement. And he said, no. Last week, it took me about 6 hours to coach this one rep. Today with Rilla, I was able to see all the analytics, do all the ride-alongs with all my 5 reps in less than 50 minutes. So we're talking, 30 to 50 times the productivity for your sales manager, who's now a bionic super coach that can coach remotely. And it opens up so many possibilities for the sales manager. And then the sales rep, right? The final audience here is the sales rep. The sales reps absolutely hate it at the beginning. At the beginning, when they get presented, they're like, what the hell is this? You're going to be recording me. You're going to be reviewing what I'm saying. What the hell is wrong with you? And this is Big Brother. They absolutely hate it at the beginning. And then what happens, and actually what we've seen is top performers hate it more than other people. Psychologically, they just absolutely hate it. So 20% of your top performers are going to absolutely hate it. The product is designed in such a way that it kind of takes their secret sauce and shares it with everybody else. So I can see why they don't like it as much. And then average reps are a little bit concerned. And the people who embrace it the fastest are the low performers or the people who are newer to sales, because they kind of need the help. They want to they want to improve, right? And they need the help. And then what we see is it's a weird thing. After they record 5 conversations, the fear goes away almost like completely. It just becomes like a habit. And it's a thing in psychology called the Hawthorne effect. When you know you're being reviewed, your senses are really heightened and you're really concerned, you're really aware that you're being reviewed. But then the effect kind of like dies down after a few hours that you know that you're being reviewed. And so psychologically, they lose the fear in the first week. And then we literally have clips of like people saying like, this is awful, you know what I mean? And then 6 weeks later, it's like, oh my God, I'm making 30% more sales. I'm doing great. I'm making so much money. So the sales reps, they start, it's like a journey, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm going to be recorded. What the hell? Okay, now I'm fine with it. And then, oh my God, this is one of the best tools I've ever used. So, yeah.
You know, that's just incredible, the amount of information that allows everyone to pull together. But it's something you shared at the summit that I want to make sure we touch on. It's not, you know, it's not just the data on, you know, what words to say, when to say them, you know, what questions to ask, but, you know, taking that next step and allowing sales managers and owners to, you know, evaluate their process as a whole on the bigger picture. Tell us what you found out when reviewing the data on the placement of company story in relation to the price proposal. That was a game changer for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Seth, thank you. That's an amazing question. So, one of the things that we're able to do with Rilla is that, you know, our AI, you know, language model understands, you know, what's being talked about. And it understands topics like, you know, the company story and like when people are talking about financing terms and when people are talking about, you know, pricing and all these other topics, right? And one of the things we can see is not only what is being talked about, but how long and when in the conversation is it happening. And so we recently did an analysis of 500,000 sales conversations in home with customers. We anonymized the data, we aggregated it, we looked at what the top performers in the industry, like across industries actually, all across the country, that bring in $5 million in revenue, the absolute top 1% of people. What is it that they're doing differently in the home? And one of the very counterintuitive things that we found out is that typically the average reps, right, they say their company story like between minute 30 and minute 45 of the conversation of a 2-hour meeting, right? So they first do their discovery, their inspection, then they start their presentation, and their presentation typically starts with something like, you know, here I'm just going to give you a little presentation on our company and who we are. You know, you need to be really careful with who you do business with in this industry because you want to make sure that if you're going to let somebody into your home, they have insurance, that they have all these things, they're accredited. And then they go on to their company story. Our company, we've been around for, you know, we've been around since 1776. George Washington was my grandpa, and we're like, you know, and our roofs are made from American soil and you know, and George Washington steers. And so and that's the company story, right? And they do that in minute 30, 45. Top performers, right, which was counterintuitive, they don't do the company story on average at the beginning of the conversation, minute 30, minute 45. They actually do the company story on average at an hour and 45 minutes, right? So later in the conversation, after they have talked about financial terms meaning how are we going to pay for this? Is there some sort of financing involved? You need to pay up front, you need to pay like half and half. Like after they've talked about pricing and financing terms, that's when they're talking about the company story, which is very weird because that's not how salespeople get trained, right? And so they're doing something different than what their training suggests, right? And what we saw, we were like, okay, what's happening there? What we saw was that the top performers, right? They do their discovery. They ask a lot of open-ended questions. What brought you into our home? Blah, 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 blah. And then they say the same thing. They say something like, you know, you need to be really careful with who you do business with at the beginning of the conversation. If you're going to let somebody in your home, it needs to be insured. You get a lot of complaints in this industry. And then they stop there. And they don't say the company story. They don't say anything. They just keep going. Let me show you the product. Let me show you the demo. They keep going. And then the price question comes up, and that's when the real selling begins, right? How much is it? You know, rep gives the price. Homeowner says, "Oh my God, that's so expensive! $25,000 for a roof. What the hell?" and then the top performers, they don't start dealing with the objection. They go, "Okay, what about the price seems too high for you?" And the homeowner starts talking and be like, "Well, I got somebody else who came in last Saturday, and they quoted me at $10,000, less than half of what you're telling me." Oh my God, okay. And who is this person that we're talking? Like, oh, can you tell me a little bit more about that quote? Like what kinds of products we're working with, what kind of company it is? And they start talking and talking and talking. And I was like, okay, so you're working with a local kind of like Jimmy Bob, who's like your friend of the family, and okay, I got it. So as I mentioned before, you have to be really careful with who you work with. Can I tell you a little bit about our company and why we're charging the premium that we're charging? And that's when they do the company story, right? Because essentially they're saving their best ammunition to when it actually matters, to when it's going to land much better for the homeowner, because the homeowner is actually associating the value of your company with the actual price and the service that they're paying for, and they're doing it right there, which was weird to us, but that's what they're doing. So yeah.
Well, I love that. And really about 10 years ago, we had actually started to train to keep the company story for the end, because people buy people, and that is your best stuff to close with. And, even showing pictures of your installers and,
Yep.
who's going to be
Yep.
at my house, all that type of stuff. And
Absolutely.
it was interesting. We'd actually learned that from a guy by the name of Bill Gladwell, who is an NLP specialist. And he had said, you really need to switch and do that company story before you're closed. So good stuff. So, really, I loved hearing when you just kind of, you did answer a question I had in that, saying that, you're looking at the information you collect from sales presentations across your client base. So
Right.
someone is not just necessarily being compared to the top performer in their organization, but they're getting, finding out how top performers do it all over the place. And so I
Right.
love that. So really, the more clients you have, the better your product gets, through machine learning, I would assume.
Oh yeah. And now with GPT-4, we're doing some pretty wild stuff with like understanding language and understanding what's actually being talked about. It's actually kind of crazy. We recently launched a summarization tool where you could just it's like literally having like a human being taking notes about what actually happened in the conversation. It'll tell you like everything. It'll be like, oh, the conversation started here. We even had this GPT-4, it was able to, there was a customer one time, we saw one of our customers showed us, there was like a conversation where they were selling a bath, and the bath was like electric or motorized or something like that. And the customer said, I don't want that because, I had a family who suffered from had an accident with one of these things, right? So this is like a very atypical objection, right? And the thing said it in the summary is like, oh, the customer expressed big concerns with the motorized bath because a family member had an accident, just automatically, out of nowhere. And it was really, really interesting. So yeah.
Well, so your company is just in a period of absolute rampant growth right now. You recently said on our friend Jim Johnson's show that your growth is like 30% a month, and most business owners are going to say, that's just kind of insane. So what have been your biggest challenges as a company in scaling up for something like that?
Great question. So, I mean, the way I see and this is true for most business owners, right? For not only for tech, and a lot of our customers will probably sympathize with this. When you are getting started, right, and you're just trying to find what we call product market fit, you're trying to kind of make you're trying to go from 0 to 1. You don't exist in the world, and you're literally trying to just not die and exist. And I'm not going to figure out something new. Whether you're selling shingles in your market and you're trying to establish your brand as something that's going to last, for longer than 3 years, which is the average time that the small businesses die. And you're trying to really make it happen. And that's when the period of absolute hustle and absolute strength and grit that you have to just do as an owner to just establish yourself, right? Because there's nobody with you, right? It's just yourself and your vision and your and whatever you're putting into it, right? And then when you figure something out that it's working, when you start getting customers and you start, people start referring, you see that you got something working, right? And then you start growing. The challenge then becomes different. It's not you as an owner with your will to exist, right? It's now about building processes and scaling, not even processes, but culture, right?
Yeah.
How can you actually cement and keep a really high level culture at your company with your values, right? So that as you're scaling, you can keep the same kind of intensity and passion for your customers that you had when you got started, right? And how can you scale that as a team? So I would say that the biggest challenge for us, which will continue to be the biggest challenge, is how do we scale that absolute world-class culture? And so last year when I saw that we had product market fit and we were we had something going on, I started obsessing about how do we cement our cultural values and literally write it down so that when people, we know who to hire, we actually hire people, not even like, yes, we try to hire super talented people, and everybody who works here is like insanely smart and super talented. We're always talking to super talented candidates, right? Because we pay very well. So the thing for us that makes a hire or not, it's more about cultural compatibility, and we test for culture in our interviews, and we are really, really, really intense and conscious and methodical about who we want to bring into our company and who we fire. Honestly, like who we let go because they're just not a good culture fit for us. And we have 8 operating principles that we are very kind of passionate about. Everybody on our team is, and so to me, if we can just keep our culture steady, I think that most of the challenges, of scaling just kind of solve themselves if you bring in amazing people who are super high performing. It's like if you're Michael Jordan with the dream team and the Olympic team, if you have the right people with the right culture, it's like there's not much that can go wrong. You know what I mean? So yeah, culture supreme. I'm obsessed about maintaining a world-class culture.
So what was that like for you, to be able to make that change from focusing on product and staying alive and all that type of stuff to this focus on culture? I mean, it sounds like you're equally passionate about both, and so that probably helped.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even know about culture like back when, when I was like focused. I was like, I think I have this thing. It's like back to the pirate genes, like I think I have like this thing where I just get obsessed about whatever the challenge is. So the challenge at the time was finding product market fit. Okay, we found product market fit, and then I knew that culture was going to be the next challenge. And the reason I knew that is I read a lot about these like amazing founders, Steve Jobs and Brian Chesky from Airbnb and Walt Disney, and they all say the same thing. It's like really when you're scaling, it's all about culture. Like culture beats strategy, and it beats processes, it beats everything. If you just have an amazing culture, and the way that people can think of culture like very kind of like as a competitive advantage, if you're scaling a team, right? Culture is the way that people make decisions when you're not in the room. And you're not in the room most of the times if you're scaling a team. And most of the decisions that are being made about your business are not being made by you. Like 90% of the decisions, if you have a large team, right, are not being made by you. You can make high-level decisions and set the vision, but you're not making most of the decisions. So how do you allow, with very little managerial overhead, how do you allow people to make the right decisions at the right times, not being guided by rules and kind of like, bogged down by bureaucracy, but how do you guide them based on principles and based on cultural values? And so I kind of knew that was going to be the next challenge, so I kind of like read a lot about it. I became obsessed about it, and it's not just like saying, but it's being very disciplined about it. Like if somebody's not a good culture fit, and you realize you have to let it meet. It's like there's no compromise. There's no compromise with the culture ever, right? And that's how you. It's more about a lot of people know that or pay lip service, so like, oh, my culture, but then they're very undisciplined about how they keep it together. So we just try to be really disciplined about that.
Wow, that's some great insight there. Thank you. We didn't anticipate going there in this conversation, but that's some fantastic stuff. So,
thank you.
You've got this tiger by the tail. I'm kind of curious, what are some of your wildest dreams for the future in terms of, how this technology might advance and grow or crossover to other industries? I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about is everyone complains about physicians and poor bedside manner. I mean, what if they could use something like this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, no, I mean, we are going to be focused for a long time in the home improvement industry. This is our market, and this is our customers that we want to serve. And we don't want to be one of those companies that just is okay for many people. We want it to be absolutely amazing for just a few.
You don't want to be chasing every shiny thing. And
no, we really want to earn the right to be able to expand our business. And the only way you do that is by building an absolutely amazing product that's well integrated into our into the solutions of our existing customers, that fits their workflows, right? Medical, of course, there's medical sales, but they have different workflows, they have different sales processes. So if you're going to build a product that's really good for those processes, you have to really focus, right? And so we are completely focused on home improvement for now and for the next few years. And so like what I think are like some of the coolest things that we're talking about now as a product team is like, if we go like 5 years ahead, the Apple just came out with their AR glasses, VR glasses. And I think that the biggest disruption to the outside salesperson is actually going to come in the way of AR. So as somebody who works on AI, I can pretty much, I have a pretty strong intuition that the salesperson, the outside salesperson, is not going to be replaced anytime soon. It might be different for the call center and the people that sell, on the phone, because that's already like brewing. But this person outside is like AI is not very good at like gripping things, and opening a door and shaking a hand and like
Sure.
taking a picture and doing an inspection and getting on a roof. And so that it's funny how AI is like replacing all these white collar jobs, and then the blue collar jobs are like now on the
Yeah,
rise
absolutely.
because AI can't grip things. So the outside sales. So the biggest disruption I think is going to happen in the next 5 years is going to be AR. So I imagine a world where you're a salesperson, or you're selling metal roofs, and you go into a home and you have AR glasses that are super like comfortable for you to wear. It's like a new hardware that consumers are using, and you can literally do your inspection with your glasses, and you can take the measurements automatically, and you can get feedback right
Oh,
there
wow.
on
Yeah.
your screen
Awesome.
about what it is that you should say and how you should say it. So that's not for now, but that's in the dream lab still. So yeah.
Well, I think we've all seen, kind of going back on what you were just saying, you've probably seen on LinkedIn this company building this building. They put this big billboard on the side of the building. Yeah, let your AI finish this building. Yeah, that drove it home.
Yeah. So that's why I'm a big fan of AR for the industry, because I think it's like one of the like AI is either going to replace a job or it's going to make the person doing that job bionic at doing that job. It's just going to make them much better and enhance them, right? And that's why I think the best usage of technology is when it enhances the natural capabilities of human beings. And so I think that AR represents that, right? It's you are going to be doing your job as you usually are. You're going to do your best, with your human skills, but then you're going to have this technology that's going to make you almost like a cyborg. That's going to
Yeah.
make you super bionic at doing that job. So,
Wow. Good stuff. So what's the process for a company to get involved using Rillavoice?
yeah. So you go to rillavoice.com. That's RILLA voice.com. And you click on the schedule a demo link, and one of our very highly trained consultants will be able to walk you through a demo. And we have trained all of them with AI. So you tell us how they did because we're tracking that all the time. And then, we'll walk you through a demo. Typically, our customers want to buy very quickly. And once you want to become involved and once you want to sign up for Thrilla, it's a pretty simple process of onboarding. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes to get started of setup time. So it's a pretty quick turnaround time. We have a customer success team that will make sure that you guys are having a great kind of experience. One of the things we've seen in the industry, which we want to kind of change a little bit, is that technology products usually just said, here you go, right? And you figure it out.
Right.
and
Yep.
then
Yep.
and then all that, and then any time that you're implementing, businesses are not buying technology, they're buying solutions to their problems, right? And so there's things outside of the technology that can always go wrong with implementation through no fault of anybody's. It's just like things just go wrong. And so that's why we have a really dedicated customer success team to make sure that they can help you through implementation, help you, connect your things properly, make sure that you're actually having the success. And so we just have a success team that just keeps working with you for all the time that you're with Rilla. So, but it takes about an hour and 15 minutes to get set up.
Wow, love it. And I love what you just said. Companies don't buy technology, they buy solutions
Yeah.
and answers. That's good stuff. Well, this has been great. We are close to wrapping up what we call the business end of things. Is there anything we haven't covered today that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of briefly mention I've been on this evangelization of AI. So Rilla's part of this growing movement. I just want to let everybody who's listening know there are market forces now that are making things like Rilla exist. So Rilla is an atypical company because we're New York based, and we're going after industries that are outside of New York and Silicon Valley. Are not, we're not in the tech bubble per se. We're actually selling technology to industries outside of tech where it's very much needed. And home improvement in particular, I just want to say to everybody, right now at this point in time, and I know this sounds crazy, but home improvement will be at the forefront of AI adoption. Which is kind of crazy. and Rilla is kind of proof of that. And what I'm saying by that is AI is really new. With the new GPT chat came out in October 2022. So, and it's developing really fast. And typically what used to happen historically is that Silicon Valley, right? If you were a new technology, you would sell your technology to other Silicon Valley companies that would kind of like be the lab rats and test it and kind of be the early adopters before it got adopted in mass market. Same
Sure.
thing happens with CRM technologies. It came out in the 90s, tech companies adopted it, startups, and then it came out to mass market. Home improvement, it started like in the mid 2000s, right? Like 10 years later. And we're still seeing like lack of CRM adoption today, like 15 years later. With AI, it's actually going to be flipped. Technology venture funding is down 90%, so technology companies are really suffering. Everybody's laying off people in technology. So venture capitalists are looking for industries outside of tech to deploy AI and to deploy new technologies, and home improvement is at the top of the pecking order because of all the economic forces that we know. COVID moved people into homes, staying in their homes longer. Their appliances are breaking. They're noticing that their roofs are not as nice as they used to be, and so that is making it a really attractive industries for venture capitalists, just like it is for private equity. And so AI's here. Everybody's interested in looking at home improvement like a hawk. And so companies like Rilla, we're just the beginning of the AI wave that's coming, and that's here, frankly, for the home improvement industry. So I would just keep your ear close to the ground and kind of contend with the fact that you're going to have to be an early adopter, not a late adopter. So yeah.
Wow. Love it. Love it. And we know a lot of our audience members are folks who are just kind of trying to figure out their place in this industry. So great advice as always.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Sebastian. Before we close out, I have to ask you if you're willing to participate in something we call our rapid fire questions. So
Let's
these
do
are
it.
7 questions, maybe serious, maybe silly. Sebastian has no idea what we're going to ask him. So we are going to alternate asking you these questions. Seth, you want to ask the first one?
Sure, I'll get started. So, question number 1. I'm audibling because I'm more curious about this. Who are your favorite stand-up comedians?
Oh my God. There's so many. Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Richard Pryor, George Carlin. I could go on. There's a lot. Yeah.
It's
The goats, yeah.
Yeah. Monty Python's Flying Circus. Shout out to my British people. So Monty Python.
good stuff.
John Cleese. Yeah. There's just so many. Yeah.
Okay, question number 2. What is a product that you have purchased recently that has been a game changer for you?
Oh my God. 2, Superhuman. It's an email client that a lot of startup founders use. It saves me like 2 hours in the day. It's like just a much better, faster way to do email. And the second one is this thing called Magic Mind. Magic Mind's like a little startup energy drink. I don't know what it has in it, but I drink it every day, and we're growing 30% month over month. So something's working. So
Awesome. So I'm going to check out Superhuman. Magic Mind, we actually trialed their product on our show several episodes ago. So we
that's awesome. Yeah, that's groovy, man. I don't know what the long-term effects are, if we're gonna start getting like a third eye or something, but in 5 years, but who cares? It's working.
That's right. Good shout out to Magic Mind. Good stuff.
All right, next question. What would you like to ultimately be remembered for?
Wow, what a great question. Yeah, if I was remembered by the multiplier effect that the people around me created. So like PayPal, everybody knows the PayPal mafia. The culture that they created there. They went on to the people that worked at PayPal went on to found LinkedIn and YouTube and Yelp, and it's just like, and then the people at LinkedIn went on to found amazing companies as well. And Elon Musk came out of PayPal, so SpaceX and Tesla, and it all came from like that culture. If I could do something like that, and people could remember me not even by the fruits of my own labor, but by the labor of people who I got to influence, that would be great.
Wow, that's awesome. Good stuff.
Very cool.
Okay, next question. You're trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. What one person do you definitely want on your team?
What one person do I definitely want on my team if I am going to survive the zombie apocalypse? Who do I want? There's a sales rep of ours that works for like a company in Texas, and he has like ropes and guns and everything locked and loaded in his car. I would go with that guy. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he knows who he is. He's got I immediately came into mind. He has like a truck, and he has has all sorts of things in that truck. I don't know if he's like part of a circus or something, but he has a cage and he has a ladder and he has a rope and he has knives and guns. So I was like, that guy. I'm gonna be. I'm just That's my guy. That's my best friend.
That just sounds like any roofer in Texas, to be honest.
my roofers in Texas. I'm with you guys. Right on.
Next question. Would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into the future or 10 years into the future?
Oh, 10 years. But yeah, 10 years.
Awesome. Okay, next question. Would you rather be forced to sing along every time you hear a song or to dance every time you hear a song? Dance.
I'm Dominican, man. We got that like our booty moves on its own. So
okay, do we have a song queued up here? Oh, maybe not. Okay.
Yeah.
Last rapid fire question. Do you have any hidden talents?
Any hidden talents? I am insanely annoying. Yeah. And that's hidden because you wouldn't tell from just meeting me one time. My mom knows, though. She knows.
Your mom knows.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It kind of comes with the territory with boundless energy and enthusiasm and passion, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's the dark side. So
Yeah. So yes, as my superpower.
Good stuff. Well, this has been a real pleasure, Sebastian. You and your technology are just incredible, and we look forward to watching your ongoing success and the growth of Rillavoice and everything to come in the future. So for folks who want to get in touch with you or to learn more about Rilla, how can they most easily do that?
Rillavoice.com. That's RILLA voice.com, and click on the schedule a demo link. And if you want to learn more, Rillavoice.com.
Very good. Well, thank you again. And thank you to our audience for tuning into this episode of Construction Disruption with Sebastian Jimenez of Rillavoice. Look for his contact information also in our show notes. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We're always blessed with great guests just like today. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Until the next time we're together, though, keep on disrupting, challenging the status quo, looking for better ways to do things. Don't forget to take the time to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Make them smile, encourage them, simple yet powerful things we can all do to change the world. So God bless, take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.